Okay, I'd like to announce that a quorum is present. The meeting is duly called. Notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The following board members are in attendance: Tracy Miller, Allison Lassonde, Catherine Sells, Dr. Buddy Bonner, Christy Hassett, Jenny Prosnick, and Sheila Taylor. We'll now convene into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071, 072, 074, and 089. The time is 5:31 p.m. We'll now convene into open session. The time is 6:07 p.m. Please join us as students from Central Elementary lead us in the pledge. Armani Cooper and Michael Murillo.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Allegiance to the
Okay, here's some fun facts about Armani first. Armani loves to dance, especially hip-hop and gymnastics, and just had a competition this past weekend. Was that Excite Gym? I was there. She wants to be an elementary teacher when she grows up. That's awesome. And her favorite teacher is Miss Thetford because she is so kind and always helps. So some fun facts about Michael. Michael enjoys playing games on his iPad and fishing with his cousin. He wants to be a fisherman when he grows up. His favorite teacher is Miss Gonzalez because she is really nice. Parents or grandparents in the room? Thank you, guys. I'd like to thank everybody for board appreciation, and we even received some emails today for all the signs and gifts that we have here. We have some unique ones. They get more unique and creative every year, so thank you for that. This is always a pleasure to come in and see this. It's a highlight of our year. It's also very interesting to see some of the creativity with our pictures, and there's actually posters in the back room too, so thank you for that. We greatly appreciate it. It's our honor to serve you. I'd also like to acknowledge that the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. event at LHS Auditorium, 6 p.m. on Monday, January 16th. If you've not had a chance to go to that, I highly encourage it. I think there's no school that day, right? But if you can make it to that event, it's really worth your time. Welcome to all. The Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees meets monthly to receive reports from staff and take action on recommendations from the superintendent. The board receives the agenda and all supporting documentation 10 days in advance of these regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions. The board also meets in regularly scheduled workshops and work sessions where staff discussions and presentations are given for many of the agenda items. This protocol means lengthy discussion or a litany of questions on every agenda item is not necessary, and as a board, we should have appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of our meeting tonight. Furthermore, we ask all those in attendance conduct themselves respectfully at all times during the meeting. Any outbursts or disruptive behaviors may result in your removal from the board meeting. Chief Communications Officer Amanda Brim will now share with us this month's recognition and student spotlight.
Hebron High School Band once again impressed at the 2022 6A UIL State Marching Band Contest, earning the silver medal for their program, Odyssey FM. The state contest features 42 of the state's top band programs, with only 14 advancing to the finals, including LISD's Hebron, Flower Mound, and Marcus bands. The Hebron Marching Band is directed by the 2021-22 LISD Secondary Teacher of the Year, Andy Seeley, along with Travis Pruitt, Brock Alsafar, Ben Cook, and Chris Josie. Congratulations, Hebron Band.
That's okay. I think I'll be okay. Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having us out tonight. We're very grateful for this opportunity to recognize our students, but also very grateful for you guys, the board, and LAC staff members for taking the opportunity to recognize us in this context. We're super proud of our kids. They did a great job. We're going to introduce everybody from your left to your right. First of all, our Associate Director of Bands, Mr. Travis Pruitt. One of our senior drum majors, not senior drum major, one of our drum majors, she's actually a junior. I didn't promote her that much. Kim. Next, another drum major. This one is a senior, Caitlin Lutz. Our senior drum major, really our lead drum major, our center drum major for the season, Suhani Rana. And then a rarity for us, a sophomore drum major. This is Stephen Solis Welch. And then the next young lady with the red hair is Charlotte Kimball. Charlotte's a junior. And then we brought some of our other band officers for you this evening. This is Brandon Liu, who's one of our percussion captains. This is Xavier Vega Yu, one of our band officers. This is Trucy Agachi. She's a senior, plays French horn. This is Courtney Shaw, a senior, and she plays clarinet. This is Micah Clay, one of our color guard captains, and Kiki De Leon, another one of our color guard captains. The other two young men that look like they're 14 right here would be Mr. Brock Alstafar, one of our associate directors, and our new percussion instructor and associate director, Mr. Ben Cook. I want to recognize and thank Ms. Drinkwater, and she's here in the audience, and then we also have administrative staff from Hebron in the audience tonight, Mr. Kroll, Dr. Garlinger, Ms. Cohen, and Ms. Bowden. You guys please stand, and some parents out in the audience too tonight. We appreciate that. Ms. Lutz, Ms. Cohen, back here. Thank you so much for having us out. Okay, photo.
In an effort to better serve the students, staff, I'm sorry, Dr. Rapp.
All right, thank you, President Miller. It's a pleasure to get to start off our new year here together. I'm pleased this evening to bring you the wrap rundown, the superintendent update that we do every single month. And just a quick note, we're so proud of our bands in LISD, and what an amazing accomplishment to have 3 bands in one school district in the top 10 in the state. And to have Hebron to not be recognized for their second place finish is a huge accomplishment, and we are just so proud of the fine arts in the Lewisville Independent School District. So tonight the wrap rundown is a special edition because it is in honor of the 7 people that sit up here with me each and every month. And so we're so honored to recognize what you all do for our school district. The theme this year for School Board Appreciation Month was Forward Together. And when you think about what we're working on with culture in our school district, with being one LISD, as you see all of the amazing signs that the schools have put together for you, and many of our campus administrators in the audience, and I'm so thankful for them here this evening too, as they work to honor the work that you all do for our community. And so first, let's start with a video for all of you. I'm going to let y'all hit play on that, I think, down there.
School board because they give their time and their energy, and they come to our events, and they're always there for us and help us.
I feel like they do a lot of great things for the district, and I feel like without them, the district wouldn't really be the same.
The school board has impacted our school by buying the supplies that we need.
They are actively engaging with the students and the teachers and the staff on campus to help make improvements with the school and kind of better and support the students.
I'm thankful for our school board for all of their advocacy for education in our district and supporting all of our kids and all of their various needs.
They give us more opportunities in our school to become more successful in our classes and other outside school opportunities in our school.
I'm thankful for the school board because they keep all the schools running smoothly and efficiently.
They talk to the staff, they're present, they go above and beyond to find out exactly what's going on.
It's many decisions that help us every day. Whether that's decisions on new rules for our school or new student buildings in general, it makes LISD so much better.
And they always put into consideration the different types of students that we might have.
The school board has impacted my school by making sure that all the teachers and all the staff members are good people and they do really good at their job.
I'm thankful for a school board that has the vision to see what's down the road, what's coming, and to allow schools, programs to not stay behind the curve, but to always be leading and charging forward.
I think that their presence and their effort is really evident, and they come to a lot of events such as the LAC Friendship Dinner and Feeder Pep Rally.
They set aside time out of their schedule or day to help out kids that they don't even know.
They have good education and they care about the school district.
I think I'm mostly thankful for our school board for their visibility. They're absolutely everywhere. You can see them supporting students on the field, in the auditorium, and in the classrooms.
They're always there to support us when we have extracurricular activities, like after school. They always put their funding wherever we need it the most.
They look out for all 50,000 kids that are here, and like it really helps me and my friends, some other students, and the teachers as well. So like, thank you so much. Would y'all help me say thank you to the board this evening? We know, as they spoke about on the video, all of the time that you all spend. I just think about these pictures here on the screen, the time you spend out with our students, the time you spend in our communities, celebrating our staff, the picture at the bottom, the Dallas Cowboys with Ashley Furniture, the redo of the lounge at Lakeland Elementary, of course, Dr. Bonner in his very festive suit, when our our students had prepared the meal for the Lewisville annual Chamber Gala, and then, of course, Mr. Miller there reading. And you think about what you all do in terms of communication when you think about the 3 C's, the amount of work that is spent preparing for these board meetings, the amount of work that is spent preparing and studying for the decisions that you're going to make, the commitment that you all made, for example, on our STEM academies and our STEM campuses, and coming to be a part there of watching our schools get the national recognitions means a lot to our staff, for you all to be that visible in the community. And then these pictures I love. We had an amazing time attending the Veterans Ceremony, as an example, at Heritage Elementary, and you see you all in that picture. You see the joy on your faces, Ms. Sells and Ms. Prosnick and Ms. Lasan, as we awarded grants to aides that are working to be teachers. And then, of course, you see you all supporting our new teacher event there with Mr. Seeley, who we just all saw as well tonight. So we know that you are a part of helping build the culture of LISD, and always every day working to support our students and our schools and our community. I'm going to close with just a few things that are happening around the Ville. So we're pleased. If people haven't seen the story, recently Garden Ridge Elementary, right before the break, was recognized as a model professional learning community at work. They're one of roughly 300 schools and districts worldwide to receive this honor. And of course, we had the honor of being at Lakeview and Lily Jackson for their awarding of their model PLC recognition as well. I just mentioned Lakeland Elementary. We all got to be there and celebrate with them with the Ashley Act of Kindness in the Teachers Lounge, and we love to see our community rallying together to recognize and support our students and our educators. And then we had our LISD Middle School STEM Challenge winners get to visit Stryker. We appreciate our businesses in the community that host our students and give our students authentic learning experiences, and we had nearly 70 STEM students participate in the medical equipment design contest. We have these stories and more. I would always encourage anybody to go to lisd.net/stories to see the great work that's happening in our school district every day. And I just thank you all so much for all that you do to take care of our district.
Thank you, Dr. Rapp. Okay. In an effort to better serve the students, staff, and communities throughout LISD, those wishing to address the board through public comments are now required to register online beginning when meeting agendas are posted, which is typically 72 hours prior to the start of the meeting. The new procedures are similar to the other ISDs across Texas. We appreciate those who registered online to speak tonight. This evening, in an attempt to be fair to those who may not have been aware of the process, we will accommodate those who registered in person, as well as we know this is a new change. While on-site registration will no longer be available at future LISD board meetings, we want to reiterate that the new pre-registration process allows for people to not only complete the form online, but the option to come to the administration building to register their comment, as well as via phone call during the registration period. Online registration was available Friday afternoon until 1 p.m. Notifications of this new format were communicated in 3 different ways. First, anyone speaking in open forum over the last 12 months received a communication from us. Those who have signed up to receive board alerts were notified. The information was posted on social media in addition to being included in the monthly board meeting reminder. Additionally, we mentioned the new process in a December newsletter, as well as the December board meeting. Requiring participants to register ahead of time gives individuals and staff an opportunity to seek a resolution prior to the board meeting. Those who wish to speak at a board meeting often expect a dialogue between the Board of Trustees. However, in accordance with Texas law, the board is not able to respond directly to comments or questions posted by speakers. Texas law also does not allow the board to discuss or take action on any issue presented during the public forum unless the item has already been posted for action on the meeting agenda. Speakers will be divided into 2 groups. First, LISD stakeholders will be given the opportunity to speak, followed by non-stakeholders. Lewisville ISD stakeholders, meaning current students, parents, employees, and residents of Lewisville ISD, will have a maximum of 3 minutes each for their presentation. An individual's status as a stakeholder has been determined based on the review of the public comment. Each speaker will receive a written follow-up from the district in the next 3 business days. The board and district administration values the feedback shared during this time of the meeting, and we are grateful for the continued partnership between LISD and the families and communities we serve. For each speaker, please state your name and address. Except for the student speaker, you do not have to give that information. So the first speaker is Faith Jockney.
Hello, I'm Faith Jonke, and I'm Student Body Student Council President at Lewisville High School. I'm here today with some of my fellow officers to show our love and appreciation for all of you and everything that you do for us day in and day out. We truly appreciate you for everything that you do, and since it's School Board Appreciation Month, we have some gifts for you today. So if we could our officers please give them their gifts? Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you, Faith, and the student council. We appreciate you guys, and you did a great job when we had the legislative day with our newly elected officials. Most of them are newly elected, I believe, except for Senator Springer. And so thank you. You guys set the bar every year coming to recognize us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Want to get a picture with them? Sure.
Y'all keep going that way.
Okay, Delia Parker Mims, could you give your name, address?
I'm Delia Parker Mims, 2436 Deer Run, Lewisville, Texas. May I proceed? Thank you, and greetings and good evening to all of you. I'm here today to discuss the school-to-prison pipeline of our special education children. My name is Attorney Delia Parker Mims, and I've been a Lewisville attorney for over 20 years. And during this time, I have represented disabled students in this district who find themselves within the juvenile court system. I think it's also important to note that I am a former hearing officer for the state of Texas, presiding over special education due process hearings. What this means is I understand that there is a balancing of interest that must be protected, which include the district, parents, and students. But I'm here today because we cannot be a district that either intentionally or systematically funnels our disabled children into the criminal court system. That is the school-to-prison pipeline. It is the process whereby students are funneled out of the school system into the criminal court system. Now, let me tell you what that looks like. And this is just an example. It looks like a child that has a diagnosed emotional disturbance or is on the spectrum, has an outburst in the classroom, makes a verbal threat, or is being restrained, and in the course of that restraining makes contact with another person. That same child's manifestation hearing concludes that the outburst was a manifestation of that child's disability. But the student is still referred to the juvenile criminal court system. What will eventually happen is that the child will be placed on probation and expected to behave in a manner that is inconsistent with their disability. Expected to behave in a manner that they have never been able to behave because of their disability. So it's the practice of criminalizing children because of their disability. It is the practice of using the criminal court system as the motivation to cause a child to no longer be disabled. These children end up continuously violating the terms of their probation, and the consequences of violating probation is that the terms of the probation continue to get more and more severe. Eventually, they are removed from the home or placed in a residential treatment center through the criminal court process or placed in juvenile prison. I have seen this happen over and over and time again. I am telling you what I know, not what I think. Because I only have 3 minutes, I am unable to discuss the dropout rates, the adult incarceration rates, the fact that 65 to 85% of students with disabilities make up the juvenile justice system.
Thank you, Delia. Dr. Rapp will send you a note, and I encourage you guys to meet and discuss the item.
I will, and I did have a plea, so if there's anybody that would like to yield their time, I would like to ask We
don't allow for people to yield their time, but thank you. Dr. Rapp will follow up with you. Thank you. Ashley Jones.
My name is Ashley Jones, and good evening. I wanted to take a moment to express my concerns about the new registration process for public comment. This new process feels like a way to limit and restrict the amount of interaction between residents and the school board. Fortunately for me, I was included in an email letting me know about the new process, but that email looks like it only went out to people who were previously made public comments. This is very concerning to me as a parent and taxpayer in this district because this new process is deliberately disenfranchises those residents who do not have access to email or choose not to use a computer for daily communication. The ability to attend an open meeting and make public comment is a crucial part of every local government in our great state. And this new process looks to avoid participation from the voters who elected this board.
Thank you, Ashley. Melissa Chowning?
Hi, my name is Melissa Chowning, and I am at 3401 Veronica Drive. I am coming to express concern about education retention. I know it's on the agenda for you guys tonight. I saw that there's an agenda item talking about compensation as how it pertains to educator retention. I would like to have a better understanding of how you guys are planning to address issues outside of compensation that are impacting our teachers right now and our educators. I come specifically because we just lost Mr. Greenwell. He resigned at the elementary school where I send both of my kids. It's my understanding from hearing from both teachers and from educators at our school that the issues that are forcing the teacher retention issues that we're having are not really compensation based. They're tied to mental health, burnout, being overworked, hostile parents, and hostile politics. So with a legislative agenda that looks even increasingly hostile towards public education. I would like to know specifically how the board plans to support our teachers in that way and our educators as a whole, and then how parents specifically can help you in that effort.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate that. Again, our staff will respond to everybody that's spoken this evening, and just want to encourage people. We have a lot of these discussions at our work sessions, and so we've discussed this item actually for about a year in almost every work session that we've had. So I'd encourage people to look at those sessions or come to those. I think we have one on February 6th. Is that our next meeting? Yeah. Thank you, though. All right, for non-stakeholders, non-stakeholders will have 1 minute for their presentation. I don't believe we have any non-stakeholders. Okay, so we're going to skip that. All right, are there any items that anybody would like to pull for the consent agenda? Okay, thank you. Being none, do I have a motion for the consent agenda? Ms. Brosnick.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda items as recommended by administration.
Thank you, Ms. Brosnick. Do I have a second? Ms. Taylor. There's always a tie. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand with aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. I'm learning to look a little more before I count the vote. So, all right. So let me just fast forward here. Information item, Dr. Fitzhugh.
Good evening. Tonight we're here to discuss student learning. This is part of our quarterly update. Tonight we're going to focus on college, career, military readiness and the various definitions that exist within the state for this and how LISD is addressing them with our students. So the first piece is to know is that there's really kind of 4 working definitions for CCMR depending on who you're talking to. So there's a state accountability. We have a version that's part of our board goals and our CIP goals. We have a local definition that expands the state to include other metrics that look a little bit beyond standardized assessments. And then there's a House Bill 3 funding piece that is associated, and it kind of ties in with our board goal definition a little bit. So for state accountability, CCMR, these are the different ways college, career, and military readiness count for students. Students can show that they meet those standards. So for college readiness, the biggest piece with that is that students must meet a math and reading criteria on a TSI exam, ACT, SAT, or TSI, or they can score 3 or higher on an AP test. They can complete 9 hours of dual credit in any subject matter, or they can complete 3 hours if it's in math or English. Earning an associate's degree, and then there's some special criteria for some special education students as well. So again, this is state accountability, what our ratings are based on in terms of college readiness. For career readiness, currently we're under the guidelines of students who earn a industry-based certification that's approved by TEA. TEA is proposing that moving forward, not only would students need to earn a certification, they would also need to complete a program of study. Initially, when they proposed this, it was starting with the 2025 graduates. We're hearing that they're backing that up to the 2026 graduates. So it's still in the works, but it might be delayed in terms of implementation. Again, currently, it's earning a certification. And then the special education students, if you complete your IEP and show that you're workforce ready, that also counts as a career ready. For military readiness, this indicator has been paused for the last 2 years as TEA worked on a way to gather the data. Currently, what is being suggested is that districts must obtain a completed DD Form 4 enlistment document, and we must supply that to the agency in order to document that students have indeed completed what they need in order to be considered military ready. TEA did try to find an alternative method that took the burden off of districts, but they weren't able to work with and find a way for that to happen, so it is now coming back to us. I've included in this some historical data that you can see the accountability year there at the bottom, and then the graduating class and where LISD has fallen in terms of our graduating class being college, career, military ready. What you can see is that the class of 2019 was at 74%, and then as COVID hit and we started to see some changes in what colleges were needing to occur, the military readiness indicator fell off. We've kind of declined slightly over the last couple of years. The notes that I would have you look at is that we are increasing our students completing dual credit, and so that is one of those things. We've expanded our catalog of offerings, and we're seeing students opt for that pathway a little more often. We are seeing increases in certification completion. I think when they add that program of study in, we're going to see a change there again. The first class from early collegiate graduated in 2020, so you see that indicator. That military readiness was removed. And one of the pieces that we're really looking at is as higher ed has altered admissions requirements, we're seeing students not taking the SAT and ACT the way they were before, and that was the primary way the majority of our students were showing their readiness. So we're having to work through that and look at other ways and work with TEA on expanding their definition as well. In terms of the district improvement plan, so the goal in the district improvement plan says that we are going to increase the percentage of graduates that engage in high school, college, career, military based on state readiness indicators. So our strategies for that is that we are utilizing our different dashboards that we have available for campuses to monitor student engagement and activities and completion. We're working with counselors and campuses to assist students in course selections and encourage engagement in different pathways. And then we're providing professional learning for campus leaders and administrators on career readiness, college readiness, and what does that look like in the different ways that we measure it. This is the district improvement plan goal. One of the things when we wrote this 5-year goal was we were trying to close some performance gaps between the different student groups. We are set to start to reevaluate this and extend it for the next 5 years as we move forward next school year, because we're kind of played our 4 or 5 years into this right now. Local definition-wise, these are the expanded indicators. I know it's a small chart, but it was the best way I could show. We have a lot of other indicators on there. We really look at GPA. We look at completion of Algebra 2 because that's an indicator you're ready for college. We look at your courses you're taking. This was all based on research from the AASA Redefining Ready group. And what we realized was that waiting until a student was a junior or senior to determine if they're ready didn't really give us a good lead up. So we worked internally to move those measures back to what does a 9th grader look like to be on the path? What does a 10th grader look like? So we've included those in a dashboard. We have begun expansion to 6th to 8th. What does that look like? We've hit kind of a roadblock with the data burden because we do not want to add more to the campuses of trying to gather additional data elements. So we're working within what we already capture to try to work those through. So there are some expanded indicators, PSAT 8, advanced in participation in an advanced class that are there, but there are some additional ones that we would like to look at. So for local accountability, we measure that in a dashboard provided by EdUgents. This is the snapshot of the high school one, and what you can see is it looks at overall ready, if the students are college ready, if they're considered workforce ready, and then kind of you can filter between the two. For the college ready indicators, these are all the different measures that we look at, AP scores, if they're taking AP classes, those honors classes. Again, this is screenshot was taken in January, so we're just starting the second term with our high school students, so we will see some of these start to fill out differently as we move through this semester. Workforce ready, again, our definition includes discipline and attendance. It doesn't just include certifications, it includes engagement in extracurriculars, career pathways indicated, 4-year plans on file that they intend to be a successful graduate. Those are all things that we look at for workforce ready. And so again, that just went back to the first one. So action plan-wise, we've really been working with campuses in a collaborative effort with counseling and learning and teaching. We've talked at Principal U. We've been doing winter updates with all the counselors and counseling staff, making sure they're aware of what students need and what pathway students are pursuing. We've met with each individual campus with their data and sat with their leadership teams, trying to discuss what plans and how we can best support them. Career CTE-wise, the administrative team has really been looking at each campus and what courses do they offer and which pathways are available and what do we need to do to make sure that students have access in order to pursue a pathway and a program of study as TEA is rolling out that change. We're working with administrative teams. We're just trying to stay as much as we can on top of definitions and supporting kids so that they have a pathway to demonstrate readiness. And with that, just a reminder that our legislative advocacy piece around accountability is that we want a forward-facing, non-stigmatizing system that includes multiple measures. While this system includes some, it's very limiting in terms of the state system is very limiting in terms of the various metrics that they allow for. And with that, are there any questions?
Thank you. I just had a question regarding the, I think there were action plans or campus support. Are we providing general support to all the campuses, or are we providing targeted support to campuses that may be struggling in the various areas?
So one of the things when you look at each of the campuses, they're all in very different places and their students each pursue pathways a little bit differently. So we're supporting all campuses where they're at and with what's available. All the high school campuses right now is where we've focused. And so it's all 5 of our main high schools that serve seniors, and then they've looped in their 9 and 10 campuses as well. But I would say there's not one school receiving more support than others. We are working with all campuses.
I just wanted you to reiterate that we have a ton of certifications that we allow students to choose from to see what fits their desires, that business and industry have agreed are meaningful, but TEA has not put on their list so that we don't get credit.
Yes, so TEA gets inputs from business and industry as to what is deemed a worthy certification, and so yes, that list is limited. I would also add to that, because I just had this conversation, one of the things we reached out to TEA about was why students who had completed junior ROTC for a certain number of years could not be considered military ready, and TEA told us that the military does not consider students who have completed that ready, and it does not meet their criteria, so therefore TEA would not allow it.
But there's also the issue with we have tremendous choice within LISD and the courses that we offer, so not allowing the children to explore the choices that we have by the TEA wants us to send them in a pathway, which then would limit the children's exploration of the options we have available.
Yes, everything is very limited. We offer way more beyond that TEA accounts.
Thank you. I just wanted that said again. Thank you.
Community service is on the dashboard. It, of course, is at 0%. Have we figured out a mechanism to which we're going to start tracking that? I know it's been on the radar. So.
It's on the radar. Our difficulty with it is it creates a data burden for the campuses and for campus sponsors to track it. So we have pursued many options, but we want to make sure that the data is good data as well. So we're kind of in a give and take, a balancing act right now in terms of forward steps.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Fitzhugh. Child nutrition update, Ms. Maloney.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miller, Dr. Rapp, members of the board. Our child nutrition team and Airmark team will come to the podium at this time to deliver the child nutrition update.
Good evening, President Miller, Dr. Rapp, members of the board. We do appreciate the opportunity tonight to bring you a brief update on the LISD Child Nutrition Program. And it's my honor to introduce the 2 individuals that are going to share the bulk of that information with you tonight. This past November, we were fortunate to have Airmark name Alberto Garcia as the resident district manager here at Lewisville ISD. He The first time I met Alberto, one of the things he talked about was his passion for student nutrition, and you could just feel the enthusiasm he brings to the role. He's got a background in as a registered dietitian. He's been an area manager. He's worked at the college level, and most recently been the general manager for the food service program in Round Rock ISD. As you know, we do contract out our food service management through Aramark. And this year we're in the first year of our fixed meal rate contract, which TDA had us go through last spring. And as part of that process, one of the things they did require in our bid document was that we have an additional role to supervise that contract, and that's the Child Nutrition Program Administrator. And so basically that is funded through the 240 fund. It was something that TDA required of us, and we're really fortunate that we were able to hire Mrs. Kimberly Stafford into that role. She actually brings a wealth of child nutrition experience to the role. She's a district employee who then oversees that contract. TDA really expected that we hire someone with the appropriate experience and expertise to really manage that contract appropriately. And so we were fortunate to bring her in. She actually had 3 years of experience working as the general manager for Aramark here in LISD, so it was a real win for us to bring her back. I'm going to turn it over at this time to Mrs. Kimberly Stafford.
Turner. Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be back to start off again. Hit the ground running whenever I started here in July on one of our large topics here tonight, our LASD Child Nutrition Fund Balance and Spend Down Plan. We are currently operating the 4 programs you see here. If you do remember, last year was quite different, operating under the seamless summer option, which allowed us to serve all of our students for free. During that time, we were receiving higher reimbursements due to our higher participation with free meals. That, coupled with a decrease and kind of a savings in our labor for the past couple of years, has put us in a situation with about a $7 million fund balance right now. So working with our folks in finance and our folks in maintenance, we really came up with a pretty good, we feel, comprehensive plan to really hit the district across the board. Some of those items, all of them are going to help us, of course, reinvest those funds right back into the child nutrition program. They include upgrading and replacing kitchen equipment and serving lines, walk-in storage temperature monitoring, kitchen door keyless access systems across the board, an expansion of the styrofoam tray recycling program that we're pretty excited about. In addition, we also identified operational costs that can be allocated to the 240, such as maintenance salaries, and some more indirect costs such as trash that we're able to cover and kind of take that off the general fund's burden as well. So quite a win-win there. With board approval, thank you, we were also able to give our employees those a little bit of a higher starting pay rate and increase or continue those incentives that we were doing during COVID as well. So that has really paid off. Those last few items are not actually on our spend down plan, which TDA did approve, but those items will continue to allow us to really manage our fund balance moving forward into the years to come, so we can really keep that where it needs to be moving forward. Speaking of TDA, they also were here in the fall with us to complete a comprehensive look into our child nutrition program, our big audit every 3 years. Cafeteria managers, staff, principals, management team all did a really wonderful job working through the pressures of that. And TDA left smiling, and we're very happy with our on-site portion of our review, as well as some deep dive into our free and reduced application program. So we feel like it was very successful, waiting on that to close. But yeah, this last semester kind of hit the ground running. Looking forward to continue to work with the team, and glad to be back. And I'll turn it over now to Alberto Garcia, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about what the department's doing now. Thanks.
Stafford, Dr. Rapp, President Miller, members of the board, thank you so much for having me this evening.
The first thing that I would like to discuss is our meal participation. Starting with the graph on the left, you can see that our participation is down compared to last year. This is anticipated with the change in pricing from no-cost meals to pricing based on eligibility. As we shift to the graph on the right, however, you can see that our participation is increasing month over month this year. This graph compares participation in October from last semester, October to November. One of the ways we try increasing our participation is through our dinner program. Currently, we have 22 schools on the dinner program. That places those schools at serving 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So none of that would be possible without our staffing. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Rapp and the board for increasing wages. This has really helped improve our staffing about 17% compared to last year. And also an increase in retention and a decrease in turnover as well. If you look at the chart, here, this describes our current staffing model. We currently have 328 filled positions, 32 be filled, and 7 in process. As we shift over to the statistics on the right, with increased staffing means more open lines. More open lines means kids get their food faster. So we're really happy about that. Additionally, with better staffing, we also get some flexibility with staff training and development. Currently, we have 26 LISD employees participating in our manager and training program. This is a 16-week program. This program really helps us establish an internal pool of future leaders for our program so that we can fill positions upwards. With staffing improvements, we can participate in culinary innovations. So this semester, we are going to be relaunching our food truck. We have opened all of our Java cities, which I'm really excited about. Additionally, be on the lookout for new menus and lines and menu line concepts. Additionally, participating in monthly food promotions that increase scratch cooking. Good food is just one way we engage students. We also engage students through nutrition education inside and outside of the classroom. We partake in sustainability initiatives that help decrease our waste and recycle our polystyrene trays, which are then repurposed for other uses. Additionally, we, as part of our food truck mobilization efforts, our food truck goes around to several schools where our food truck manager and our executive chef talk about different careers on wheels and just in general different culinary careers. Engaging with our students is vital, but as well with our community. I am very proud to announce that as part of the Aramark Building Communities Initiative grant initiative, we donated $7,000 to these local community and organizations that reach our students. Additionally, the management staff volunteered several hours throughout multiple days putting together boxes that were delivered over the break to the community. Lastly, I want to give a shout out and kudos to the entire child nutrition team, all the way from our frontline staff to our management team and everyone in between, including Mr. Turner and Mrs. Stafford for all the hard work that they do to keep our children nourished. With that being said, I want to thank Dr. Rapp and the board for having us this evening. I look forward to our partnership for years to come. If you have any questions, we will gladly take those.
This is just me being curious. I saw that the free and reduced meal eligibility for the district was 37.5%. I wanted to know how that trended with pre-COVID levels, because I guess having a child in school still at a Title I school, I know that we had some issues with parents signing up and completing applications. So I wanted to know if that you had factored that information in.
Yes, that was a challenge for sure. Thanks to our proactiveness, we really did a really good job combating that. There are some other things that we did. We sent out letters ourselves, didn't put that burden all on the principals to handle kind of reaching out to those parents. And pre-COVID, so 2019, in the fall, we were at 35%. So it's great that we captured that extra 2.5, and we're still tracking that. We've got our district snapshot, but we will still be able to expand programs and, help with Title I. And we're seeing some of those schools continue to kind of inch up as well.
Anyone else? Jeremy, Kimberly, Alberto, thank you very much. Just a couple comments for the edification of the community. So one, thank you for bringing up the salary or the compensation increases. I think, one of the things that people forget that it's not just teachers in a classroom. There's a whole system to support the functions that they provide. And so the currency of for teachers right now, and the issue is time, much of what's placed on them by the legislature. So including things like when we had food service people out, teachers having to work the cafeterias. And so we intentionally increased the compensation there based on your request and your recommendation. So thank you for that. The other thing is for people to remember is we operate with three funds. One is maintenance and operations. That's like our OPEX. The second is interest and sinking fund or debt service. That's our CAPEX. And then food and child nutrition. We're regulated, that all we can do with the monies from that are the things that were talked about tonight. And so thank you for that. And, in addition to this, there's also bus drivers and retention issues. There's operations people, there's maintenance people, et cetera. So we'll continue to receive recommendations. And I know, Mr. Turner, you work multiple contracts, so I've mentioned a couple right there. And so thank you again for the work that you guys are doing. And the other thing is, I think Ms. Taylor has a great point. Free and subsidized lunches are a function of those who register. If they don't register, then they don't qualify for free and subsidized lunches, and we don't receive the funding for that. That means they have to pay for the lunch. COVID notwithstanding, was a different set of rules. So, I would encourage those of us in the community that don't need it, that know of people that do, to have them sign up for it. It's a benefit that they get, and it's not a moneymaker for us. It's actually something that benefits the community. So thank you for that. Thank you. Mr. Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Jacobson is going to come up to the podium as well. This topic, let's see if my clicker's working. There we go. This topic is regarding the technology device refresh. We have another one coming up from the 2017 bond project. I just want to touch on some background. If you recall, the 2017 bond was really broken into two different categories. One was really student and staff devices, which was just over $59 million, and then just over $39 million was network and infrastructure, for a total of $99,115,903. And if you recall, in October, Facilities and Technology provided a 2017 bond update, and what we were trying to do is project upcoming projects that we were anticipating for this next device refresh. And as you can see in the green, these were the projects that we anticipated coming up. And I also shared at that time we were planning on bringing this forward to the board a little bit earlier this time of year versus in the past. We've done a little bit later in April and March, mostly because of the things we've experienced with supply chain and getting equipment. If you take a look at this slide, this is from the October finance report. So if you notice, the remaining balance in the area of the device side of it is just over $13.8 million. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Jacobson. She's going to give you more specifics on the projects that we have coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Colbeck. Good evening, Dr. Rapp, Mr. Miller, and Board of Trustees. We have a lot of projects that we've completed within the 2017 bond funds, but we still have some outliers. One of the things that we said that we were going to do is we were going to replace our elementary and middle school computer labs at all of our campuses. And the other one was replacing our shared mat carts. And we'll go over the specifics of those later on in the presentation. Some other pieces, our 1-to-X program has been very successful. We are looking at the devices for our upcoming 4th graders and 9th graders for the 23-24 school year. And then our program specific, which our program specific, these are courses that iPads do not support the curriculum. So our CTE, our special education, and then our foreign languages. So let's really dive into 1 to X right now. First off, I just want to preface it that the iPads that our students have right now are nearing 5 years. And so we want to make sure that we have new devices for our 4th graders and the 9th graders. The reason why we're doing that, 4th graders, it's a great transitional year. They've never been able to take their iPad home before. We can set them up where they can go home and they can be used. They have a keyboard, and really they should last them elementary through middle school. 9th grade, again, going into that transitional year, one of the things that we have to make sure with our older iPads is that we can still maintain that fleet. We have a philosophy that we like to have consistent devices at grade levels, and every year we typically have a new iPad that comes out, and so we want to make sure that we have some for inventory to replace for other grade levels or just for parts and spares. So looking at the Templeton projection, we're looking at about 7,500 iPads between the 4th and the 9th graders. Those devices may not be the exact same iPad, but it's going to be primarily the same iPad with a keyboard, case, and then Apple Care. Oh, good, you're doing it. Thank you, Mr. Colbeck. All right, so our computer labs. We did say as part of that bond package that we would replace the elementary and middle school computer labs. And right now, my team has done a fantastic job, boots on the ground, going in and really seeing and communicating with our campus principals. It's a mixture of Mac, laptops, Windows, and desktops. And a lot of that was really site-based decision-making, what the campuses felt was right for their campus. But right now, it's just a mixture of different devices. Interestingly enough, replacing all of those devices with MacBooks would actually be our most cost-effective plan. It would provide the most standardization. One of the things that we hear from our teachers is it's difficult with different devices, so that would help maintain everything in an Apple environment. And then the other thing that I want to preface this is right now we're still in COVID numbers. Our environment is 1-to-1 for the most part, pre-K through 3rd grade, and then our 4th through 12th grade students, of course, get to opt into the program. But really, part of this is a bigger conversation with computer labs to determine if computer labs really need to be replaced.
And I want to add to that, too. That's something that I feel like is a really important conversation when you start looking at the square footage of a building, where if you have a designated classroom with a lab, if a lab is needed, should it be a dedicated space? Should it be computers on a cart if a lab is needed for whatever purpose? So I feel like this is a really important issue for us to tackle before we make any type of purchase.
Right now, looking at our campuses, we have about 12 elementaries that have a dedicated computer lab and 6 middle schools that have a dedicated computer lab space. Our special programs, of course, I've already said, they need technology outside of the iPad. So part of our refresh is going to be for special ed, Chromebooks, and iPads. Foreign language, we have language labs. Some of those are the drop-down language labs, and then others are the digital language labs. We call them DIL. And then CTE. It's really important for us to make sure that our CTE equipment, our software is up to date to really make sure that we provide those students with the best possible experience. Shared Mac carts, that's one of the things that's part of the bond, and we have quite a few in our district. At elementary, most of our elementary schools have at least, if not more, than the 3 carts of 20. Middle school has 4 carts of 30, and then all of our high schools have 5 carts of 30 MacBooks. And part of that conversation is, we've already said we're primarily 1-to-1 in all these different areas, but really it's going to be important for us to have updated devices readily available for students to take online testing. In a presentation a little bit, we're going to talk about our Locker iPad pilot, and one of the things that we're seeing is it's not just our students who have opted out of the 1-to-X program. We're talking about students who frontal lobe is still developing, they forget to bring their iPad, they forget to charge it at night, those kinds of things. So it's a different conversation besides just looking at our opt-out numbers, making sure that we have devices that are available for online testing or just to support our curriculum resources and integrations.
I want to add one thing, too. This technology is quite old, so a lot of this stuff was bought in probably 2012, 2013. So we got a lot of great life out of it, but at the same point, when you think back, way back then, you had Java, you had Flash, we had iPads without keyboards. So I think that's another big question we have to answer is, with the level of access that we have, do we really need all this stuff? So we're going to be working through that. So I guess I'll go from here. So next steps, Michelle mentioned our locker pilot, which we're going to give you a presentation on in a little bit. Also, the levels of access we're actively discussing. We actually had a technology advisory council meeting tonight. I had to leave a little bit early to come over, but the focus of that meeting was really talking about the levels of access for labs and carts, trying to come up with a recommendation, and then getting feedback with departments like assessment, looking at TEA requiring assessment, our EOCs being done on computers or devices. How does that impact, what shared devices we have, and then from a learning and teaching perspective, what items are in the curriculum that would really dictate the need for something other than an iPad. So we're trying to work through those discussions, but essentially what our plan is to bring another discussion item back to the board in February, where we would then also bring some level of a consent item back at the board meeting in February. That said, if we're not sound on how to handle the shared devices and the labs, I would like to split that recommendation, because there are some certain items that we know we're going to need in those program-specific areas. We've, in fact, we ordered some stuff last year that we just received like a couple weeks ago. So we know the supply chain issues are still a challenge. So if we have to, we'll split that recommendation to try to get part of that order coming, and then ultimately we just want to land on the right answer with these remaining 2017 bond funds to address some of the needs that we have. So with that, I'll open it up with any questions you may have.
Dr. Bonner?
Michelle, I was a little surprised to hear we still have 18 computer labs floating around out there, right? And so it made my curious mind wander a little bit. I wonder if there's a way to measure time on task or usage at those different kind of setups. Just something to ponder and think about. And the reason I am is, we want to have in place whatever puts these devices in kids' hands the most, right? And so if it's in a classroom setup with a cart that comes in, great. If it's in a lab, great. Whichever one it is, I just wonder if there's a discernible difference. So don't go out and make a bunch of work or try to figure that out that way, but maybe just anecdotally, something to look at and just curiosity. Thank you.
Absolutely. One of the things that we are doing that I forgot to say is we are providing a survey for all of our participants to the device evaluation and our campus principals to really get some information in regards to what was the decision point in regards to why they got rid of their computer lab and how are they using it currently. So we'll be able to use all of that data to help us with future planning.
Yeah, backed up with some data, not just anecdotal. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Thank you, Mr. Colbeck.
Thank you.
Discussion items, monthly financial report, Ms. Maloney. Oh, I checked you off twice, Brian, so sorry about that.
That's okay. I'll keep going. This next item is our monthly technology report. It's in board book. Just want to touch on a few things. The data on this report is from October of 2022. As you see, we have had a few encumbrances where our remaining bond balance is slightly lower than the last time you saw this information. Also, just touching on what we just talked about for our device refresh, if you look at grades 4 through 12, currently, or as of October, the average age of those devices in our one-to-one is 3.6 years. So at the end of this school year, our average will be over 4 years old. So as you can imagine, there are going to be a lot of devices that are 5 years old to bring that average up to 4 years old. So that's something we're tracking, and obviously any recommendation we bring in February will help bring that average down. Also looking at our IFE balance, as you can see, we have a $2.79 million balance in IFE for this current fiscal year. And then as we look at page 2 of the presentation, all of the items that we talked about in the last presentation are also really linked, especially in grades 4 through 12, on what our district opt-in number is. And as you can see, that number is continuing to creep up. So we're at 96.54%, meaning those students enrolled grades 4 through 12, 96.54% opt into the program one way or the other and should have an iPad. And then also another number that we are trying to keep a good pulse on is, out of those students, what percent of devices are showing up on our campuses daily. So of that, 88.1% are showing up daily. So that's good, but we think there's some still opportunity there to make that number closer to the 96. Obviously, that helps with any other technology needs. And then also just touching on usage, we're still at about 62% being used for educational purposes, and as you can see, a good mix of use at home as well as in school in the chart below for usage by campus. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Colbeck.
Thank you.
Can I go to the next item? Ms. Maloney.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miller. I think these are the monthly financials ending November 30th, 2022. I would call your attention to revenue, and November is when we get really nervous and with our cash flow and things like that, but I'm happy to report today that in the general fund, we are at $244 million. We're up from $215 million where we were at this time last year, and that is largely due to $34 million addition in tax collections, so we feel really good about that. Coming down to the debt service fund, we're at $99 million today at 47% of the levy, and looks like we're going to be right on spot in the debt service fund as far as our collections are concerned if everything goes well. On the expenditure side, a change that we're going to make starting next month is we're not only going to report in the general fund, child nutrition fund, and debt service fund, we're not going to just report by function. We're also going to report by object so that you'll be able to see payroll. We're going to separate out the recapture payment, the contracted services, the supplies, other operating expenditures, and then your capital, any capital outlay that we might have. It's just, I'm doing that anyway and saying, we have this many more months in payroll, and I just think it's a better visual for you guys to see. So we'll start that in February, coming up to that. If you go over to page 114 in the construction report, as you saw this evening and the month before, Randy brought a lot of items closing out projects, so you're going to see a lot of items fall down to the bottom line because of closing those projects. So that'll be in the ending December, but in the February financials, you'll see that. I'm sorry, it will be when we close January after this. So that's coming soon. And then finally, on the investment report on page 115, that was that our cash flow is picking back up. You're going to see those investments climb back up. And I would point out that last year at this time we earned $22,000. So in the investment area, we're going to see that continue to go up, especially with this influx of the taxes coming in and our increased cash flow. So that's looking very promising.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions? All right. 88th legislative session, Dr. Rapp.
All right, members of the board, we of course promised to do a legislative session update every single month. We're going to focus this month on our priorities related to recapture and finances. So Ms. Maloney's prepared some numbers that I think are important for you to see. I will be communicating with our elected officials regularly, and this will be information that I will be sharing with them as a follow-up to our legislative day that we had before the break. So Ms. Maloney, I'm going to turn it over to you to go over your numbers and recapture. One other point I would make is that we are going to do everything we can to educate our community about what our district is facing with recapture. When you think about the next presentation that's on compensation considerations, our district faces a hurdle that some neighboring districts do not face with the recapture payment that we have, and that impacts, of course, y'all's ability to do some things related to compensation and other things that you would want to do. So I appreciate Ms. Maloney putting these numbers together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rapp. And it's Happy Biennial Revenue Estimate Day. I'll get to that on the last slide. We added that at the very end. The comptroller was practically dancing on the Texas Tribune stage this afternoon. He was so giddy, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. As we've referred, as we've talked about many, many times, we talk about that Tier 1 basic allotment and all of those student-generated drivers that get our Tier 1 funding, and that portion of the tax rate or those taxes is subject to recapture. So we've talked about that many times and showed that visual. Our state funding entitlement is largely based on the enrollment and the attendance of our students. The 6,160 basic allotment and the weights for the student allotments have been stagnant since the passage of House Bill 3 in 1920 because there is no inflationary adjustment in our current state funding formula. The allotments work within the formula to determine what our district's entitlement is going to be, just like every other district in the state of Texas. And when the entitlement is determined, the local share or property taxes in the available school fund are applied to determine state funding and recapture. And of course, our taxes fill our bucket up beyond of what our entitlement is. So, per the Texas Constitution, we do receive some state revenue in the general fund. However, and a big however that we've talked about many, many times, with the current formula, the recapture payment on the expenditure side exceeds the said state revenue that we do receive. So based on the current state funding formula, any additional basic allotment increase is going to increase our entitlement and therefore reduce our recapture payment. So that's what we really wanted to focus on tonight. The current state funding template for every $100 addition to the basic allotment, that reduces our recapture payment by nearly $6 million in the current formula. And we know that there could be changes to the formula. They talk about special ed, they talk about CTE, but we're just going to talk about the current formula. So an example for our estimate in 22-23 with the 6160 basic allotment, we budgeted it right now around $57 million on the recapture payment. That's actually, we were doing some estimates today, and that has gone down a little bit due to the property value thing that I wrote to you about in the update last week. So when you add $100 and you go all the way down, you can see the recapture payment would go down for every single, and the reason I stopped at $700 is because that is at the 12% inflation mark, and I don't think that we would probably ever get anything more than that. But if you want to put it into context for something that has already transpired, we can look back to our 21-22, and we can look at the relationship of the recapture payment and then the final budget deficit surplus. So our actual is at the top. Our actual recapture payment was $44 million with a $20 million deficit. And then if an additional $100, and you could just keep going down, we would have had to break even. We would roughly have to add about $350 to the basic allotment to be able to break even with that budget. So I think it's a good visual to see. And for districts that are not recapture, if the basic allotment is increased, they have more state funding in their bucket. Some reminders are that the property values in LSD are likely to continue to increase. That leads to the property owners having their bills increase even with more compression, and I think that we will see more compression in this legislative session. There is a possibility that we could see an increase to the basic allotment in conjunction with an increase to the homestead exemption along with that compression. But under current statute, under current statute, any increase to the basic allotment also has that 30% compensation requirement for teachers, librarians, nurses, and counselors, and then a provision for all other staff at 25% of that 30%. So they try to make it real easy. I'm just kidding. It's a complicated formula to try to figure out. Again, just one more reminder, today was the comptroller's revenue estimate. We've been saying the $27 billion. The biennial revenue estimate we released today is $188.2 billion available in general revenue. It increased from $27 billion to $32.7 billion surplus due to the vigorous economic growth with gas prices, inflation, international economic factors. On top of that, there's a projection that at the end of the biennium there will be $27.1 billion in the rainy day fund. But we do have to, it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to play out because there is that constitutional spending requirement number, which is 12.3% increase over spending from the last biennium. And that would only be $12.5 billion, which is far less than that 32.7. So this is going to be something that we are going to be monitoring on a daily basis, and we'll be updating you weekly on this. But unprecedented cash at the state level. I mean, just never seen anything like this in my career. So.
We will send you this presentation because for the legislative updates, we're working right up until the date of the board meeting. So we will send these numbers to you for you all to advocate as well. I would just remind everybody that we're at the point with if it's a $54 million recapture payment we originally thought in the budget, that for LISD taxpayers, that means that 10% of their property taxes is going towards recapture, which is going right back to the state of Texas. The state of Texas is on track to collect $3 billion in recapture funds from 160 school districts. LISD is one of those 160 school districts. So anytime that staff reach out to me and we talk about what can we do in terms of compensation increases and what can we do to support the school district, my first point is join me in advocating with our elected officials that we need to keep more of our local tax dollars in Lewisville ISD.
Session starts tomorrow.
Thank you for the update and for the edification of the community. We met with, as I mentioned earlier, all of our legislative delegation except for one prior to the Christmas break, and we stated our case. Well, we had LHS students join us and presented our case on our legislative agenda. It's a very public agenda. It's outlined very well. We've, for 8 or 9 years, really focused on unfunded mandates, the inequity of the scoring system, and the inequity of the funding model. This is one where Dr. Rapp has been, we were in meetings this summer, and she's been advocating for the basic allotment. And you can see that the basic allotment funding mechanism actually has an offset in the recapture money, and it's, well, we can't really prove it. We're not sure that recapture money actually goes to schools that are that are socioeconomically disadvantaged under recapture or Robin Hood. So we believe this is an equitable way to manage this, and along with the other items that we're not discussing this evening, I encourage the community to take a look at those. So thank you for that report, Ms. Maloney and Dr. Rapp. Compensation considerations, Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you, President Miller and members of the board, Dr. Rapp. Tonight, we will simply begin our initial discussion of compensation and items that we should consider as we begin our preparation for the 23-24 school year. This evening, I would really like to just take a look at our plan this year that we have in place, spend a few minutes considering what surrounding districts are using as recruitment strategies, just so we are aware of that information, and then discuss potential strategies that we might like to consider for next year. So with that, I know we've already spoke of it today. We speak of it regularly, our continued staffing shortage. So I just really wanted to kind of highlight some focus areas. I could summarize it as special education, our special education self-contained classrooms, our special education paraprofessionals, and our special education itinerant staff are 3 of our 4 top focus areas where we continue to have above average shortage areas. The other area that I've noted there are Spanish teachers. We've had several Spanish teachers that have left for various reasons in the first semester, leaving a shortage of Spanish teachers currently. So what I want to start by doing is just reviewing what the plan we're currently working under. You can see, just to look at kind of our benefits to get an overall reminder of where we sit with that, approximately 65% of our employees participate in our medical insurance through TRS. We have 4,329 employees that are enrolled. Of those employees, 57% of them are enrolled in the active care high deductible. That is really what the state over a period of years has forced more and more people to by simply pricing the others out of the range of normal. I do want to note, because I think it's really important for our community to know, that while our employees have paid A monthly premium cost for our employees is roughly $1 million, but Lewisville ISD also is contributing $1.4 million monthly in our premiums. Just want to review that we put the bereavement leave in effective July 1st this year. We have had 108 employees participate in the bereavement leave. The average number of days that employees have requested is 3.4. And I just want to draw your attention, Board, to the notes of gratitude, because the 108 people that have participated are very thankful and very appreciative that this leave was put in place. So currently, our district, we have an employee, we contribute $326 a month to employees' premium cost. As you can see, there is a district higher than us, but overall, we're still highly competitive in what we contribute to the monthly premiums for our employees. As we talk about our market study and how we rank in the market, I just think it's really important each year that we recognize or recall, these are the 19 other districts that we compare ourselves with. So when I start talking to you about where we are in the market, by market, I mean these 19 districts. And we have been comparing to these districts since 2012. So as you take a look at the salary study and look at this information, what I really want you to take from this chart is that you can see last year in the 21-22 range, we were everywhere from 98.5% to 99.9% of the market. And when we gave our increases to start this year, we were able to move up in the market to 101 and 102% of the market. Historically, the district has always wanted to be at 100% of the market, meaning 100% of the midpoint. And so we had slipped just a little bit in 21-22, but thanks to the board for the 4% raise that we gave from the midpoint, we are now right back up at 101 and 102% of the market, which is what our goal has always been. This slide just really reminds you the 4% from the midpoint raise that we gave campus staff and for 3% of the midpoint that we gave all other staff. And you can see noted there what other districts around us did. Some definitely, there are a few districts that gave as much or more, but most districts gave a lower percentage point than we did last year, which once again is why we were able to move up in the market. I'm very proud to say that when you look at our starting teacher salary for this year, well, Garland is slightly over us with a $60,000. Lewisville's second with $59,175. We have a very competitive starting rate with all of the other districts that we compare with. So as you're aware, UEA submits salary information every year, and it goes out to all of our employees. So I think it's really important to note why the difference between the market that I talked about and the UEA salary review. The UEA salary review is really for districts all across DFW. It does not give any differentiation in this review to the size of the district or the number of students attending, any of those things. So this is comparing us with 50 other districts in the North DFW Metroplex. And you can see when you look across, going down, it shows you historically through the years how many districts have participated and where we have ranked in their survey. Once again, we have always been in the upper portion of the survey, because when you're seeing that we're comparing in the 14th, 15th range, that's out of 50 districts. And this is districts that can be quite small as well as large. So just a few takeaways. As I've already said, because I just can't say thank you enough, the 4% salary increase from the midpoint that we gave last year really helped our teacher salaries be at 101% or higher of the market, and our salaries are still very competitive. Another takeaway is, as you know, last year we discussed and put in the first 2 years, last year and this year, the technology equity adjustment. This next year we'll go ahead and do the third and final adjustment, which is around $200,000 that you all already approved for last year, or earlier this year. And then, as noted earlier by our child nutrition, but I just think is really important to note, when we raised the pay increase for our child nutrition from $11.55 to $14 per hour, you can see some of the impact of that. In December of last year, we had 82 openings. In December of this year, we had 24 openings. So they've definitely had some positive impacts because we approved those rate increases. So a couple of home run takeaways. The compensation and benefits plan certainly allowed us to remain competitive in the DFW area. And I just want to say the early notice of our salary increases certainly helped with recruitment as well as retention of staff. We were able to very quickly get out on the recruiting market and be able to share what our salaries were going to be, and that made a positive impact. So I want to take just a moment now and move into what some other districts around us are doing. Please know I'm only sharing this information, not suggesting that we should do all of these things or even any of these things, but I do think part of our job is to be aware of the other recruitment strategies that are out there and then analyze what might work best for Lewisville ISD. So one of those things that is out there and really growing in popularity is an employee daycare. Currently, when we look at our neighboring districts, you can see that Denton has a facility, Plano actually has 3 facilities, and McKinney has 2 facilities. So this is a daycare that is for employees only. It is, they offer rates that are very competitive, and there's just an advantage to a school district having their own daycare, or certainly employees who need that benefit feel the benefit of that. Another thing to consider is looking about our local leave and the opportunity to increase those days. I'm going to once again reference the UEA local leave survey that's released every year. You can tell on the chart the number of districts that give 5 days of leave. There is one district that gives 7 days. They're certainly an outlier. 38 of those 50 districts give 5 days. And then you have one that gives 4. You have those that get, there's 7, including Lewisville ISD, that give 3. And then you have a couple that give fewer than that. So this is definitely something that I think we would want to consider. On this chart, I have gone ahead and just put the names of a few of our neighboring districts that do give local. I didn't list all 38 of those that give 5 days, but just those that are around us. Another thing that is certainly seems to be growing in districts is the employee health clinic. Board, I know that since I've been here, I've brought this up, and I realize I am a bit of a broken record on this. I own that. But you can see that there are several districts in our area that have an employee clinic, and Denton is adding one next year. A couple of other districts also match employee contributions for retirement plans. So just to note, both Frisco has a match where they match 25% up to 1%. This is currently costing Frisco about $98,000 a month. Prosper has a plan where they pay in 100%, but only up to $600 per fiscal year. Both of these districts offer a plan like this as retention. You have to be in the district for anywhere from 3 to 5 years before you're even eligible to start participating in the plan. So they use it not only as a benefit to help the employee by offering some type of incentive towards their retirement, but also retention in this is a way that they try to retain their employees. We currently have 806 employees that participate in a 403B in our district, just for your information. And then obviously a salary increase is important, but this one is specific to the last year of service. This is a plan that I know some of you saw when you went to a conference earlier. This is a plan by Hayes, CISD, where they give, for a retiree who gives notice in March of the prior year, they incentivize retention of staff, and you can see, and this is simply what they do. If an employee who's retiring has been in the district for 5 years, then they get a 3% salary increase in their final year. You can track that on up to if they've been in the district for 20 or more years, an employee gets a 10% increase in their final year. This is just one of the plans that was out there. And then there are several districts that every year look at teacher salary schedule adjustments. We have done this. We've given the adjustments in past years where we see a block that's fallen a little bit below the market. We did this specifically for teachers in 6 to 19 years in the past. So now I just want to talk about what are our options as we move forward. Obviously, the first one and the obvious one is a salary increase. It's the most popular. I believe it will always be the most popular. So it's really what type of salary increase do we think would get us the most bang for our buck, and what can we consider and still be financially responsible? Referral bonuses. We could bring back the referral bonus. In prior years, we've had a referral bonus, but it was only for shortage areas. So we could implement something where we gave a referral bonus for any position and increase the rate if we would like to look at something like that. Retention payment. We had retention payments for a couple of years. I think if we wanted to consider a retention payment, this is certainly an area where we could be more creative and really incentivize the idea of retention. So we're truly giving the retention payment to people who are coming back year after year or even after the semester. We could consider increasing the district's contribution to our health care premium. As I previously shared, we're already very competitive in this area, but it is still something that we could consider. We could look at various positions where we are below market and isolate those and make some specific market adjustments as needed. And then Dr. Rapp asked me to go ahead and just tell you what my top 3 recommendations would be, and they literally are my top 3 recommendations. I think a salary increase would certainly be my top recommendation. I, once again, am going to recommend that we really look at a health clinic. I think the cost of health care continues to go up, and when we think of the opportunity where we could allow an employee to participate in a clinic and maybe have a $10 office visit or something that's very low like that, I think that would be a huge benefit for our employees. And then my third option that I would like to recommend is the retention payment. I think for as long as we see these shortages, some way where we could really recognize those folks that are returning and hopefully build our retention, and doing that with a retention payment would be my recommendation. As Paige shared with you, it is a legislative year. She's already kind of highlighted those things that we are watching. And then I just want to share a timeline for next steps. So in February, we will follow up by sharing cost estimates and additional details with you. At our March, we will start our board workshop where we will have projected revenues and expenditures for you to review. Obviously, we'll look at that point in considering the compensation and benefits plan with a plan to approve our initial compensation in April, which once again sets us on a stage for being able to share that with our current staff and go out and recruit for the 23-24 year. And then we'll have remaining budget workshops through the spring. So with that, we would really just appreciate your feedback on what your thoughts are as we move forward in this process.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. Because this is a discussion that we want to get direction from the board on, let's just go through this systematically. So we'll start over here. When Catherine's done, we'll go to Jenny and then come back this way. How's that?
First of all, I just want to thank you and your team for bringing ideas. I think this is an issue that continue to plague really every district. We heard it tonight in one of our community members speaking about it. My question, obviously, as the accountant on the board, was going to be, how much is this going to cost? So I'm happy to see that you're going to bring that information to us a little bit later. That's really only my comment, the only comment I had.
Are we at this point trying to give feedback on some of the options? One, Dr. Bonner will love that we've disagreed on in the past multiple times so far is I have heard from staff about the increase in days. So since I still hear it from staff, I think that's valuable to consider again to make us more competitive, especially with the things that are stressing teachers out now. If they could have an extra day off, I think would help their mental health. I would be very interested in some of the other positions that are below market. So whatever is below market, that we need to make sure that we are competitive in those places as well. I like your ideas of the healthcare because it's always going to be an issue no matter what. And retention is very important as well. So I don't know where I'm finding all of this money, but I'd like to do a lot.
Thank you.
Catherine?
Thank you for that presentation. I was just wondering, last year we surveyed our staff. Are we going to do that again this year? I think that kind of led us in a direction that we went, and I don't want to assume that I know what our staff would like.
We discussed that actually in leadership team. I think the one assumption we would make that would help us overall in this information is make the assumption that a salary increase is going to be the top winner, and then ask for information beyond that. So if we just know, as we learned last year, that the salary increase is their top priority, but what are the other things that they would see as important? I think the survey would bring more value to us.
I agree. And my reason is, if we do a health clinic and that health clinic is here or someplace in an administrative building, we're a large district. And I think time and travel expense is an expense too. And so somebody in our in the outliers of the district may not see that as a benefit. So I really, before I would support that, really would like to see what are numbers of our staff that would use something like that. And it may surprise me. Once again, I don't want to assume that I know what our staff would find beneficial. What is the benefit to incentivizing the retirement? Is it just for planning on the district's part?
So historically, as a stipend or something where you give early notice is just for that. But the Hayes plan is it's really much more than that. The Hayes plan is, I believe, and those of you that were in it, in the meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe theirs is to try, they have that year's notice, but they're using it as a retention tool. So if you've got 8 years of service and you know that by staying another 2 years you move to a different level of an increase, then you would stay that additional 2 years.
So this would be for those eligible to retire, but they could stay on past that retirement year?
Yes.
That's the thing I missed.
So I was the one in that brought this to the district. To me, Hayes is using it, yes, as a retention. It's also as a bonus in retirement, because your retirement is based on your last 3 years. And so it would increase that salary for that last 3 years, and therefore increasing your retirement payment when you do retire. So to me, I saw it not only as a retirement bonus, if you will, but a way to retain, to stay longer in the district. And this was for people in the, I want to make something clear on that 5 years. That's 5 years in LISD. That's not 5 years coming from another district, coming here and then retiring and then getting the bonus. It would be for somebody who had been a teacher in our district for those years. So that was one of the things I liked about it.
That was, and then I want to echo Ms. Hassett's. I would like to see those below market positions, and earlier the better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jenny?
So I agree with Ms. Sells on the health clinic. I think that we're 127 square miles, and I think that that needs to be always taken into consideration when trying to do something for all staff. But I would be, as I was last year when I asked for it, I would be very curious in the survey, and I agree that taking a salary increase off the table is number one, is important to me. I, of course, like the Hayes plan because I brought it because I thought it was a way also for planning. Hayes also, by the way, does it not only for teachers, they do it for all staff, not just teachers. And I think I think it's a way of keeping leadership in place throughout the entire school year. There's also a penalty. I would also say this in the Hayes plan, that if you left mid-year, you pay back. You have to pay back the district, those things. It's a lot more than what's on the slide, and I appreciate the fact that you included it. So those are I'm in favor of an increase. The only thing that I would ask when comparing us to other districts in the theme of tonight, how many of those districts are recapture? Because let me tell you what I could do with $54 million. Some of the districts that you referenced are not recapture districts, and so that is not part of their budget that they have to look at when doing incentives for employees, et cetera. I'm not trying to use this as an excuse, but I think apples to apples is a little more fair when looking at what one district is doing and asking us to do it with 10%, once again, of our revenue going back to the state.
Thank you. Dr. Bonner.
Okay, and am I excited? Sheila, thank you for all that information. Really appreciate that. And I've got a long laundry list, Lori. Okay. I like the game's out of reach. It doesn't matter. I like what we did last year. I'd like to see action in March, right? And approximating what we did last year, and here's why. Sheila, you talked about, and I kept the slide up, you talked about our salaries being at over 100% of market, and you rightly pointed out that's at the midpoint. So we're really at 101% of the 50th percent. Yeah, so I want to see us get to 60th percent or 70th percent. And I did a little math, and the salaries don't necessarily align with this, but that'd be like 118% of the midpoint. Now, if we were able to throw that up there, we're eclipsing everybody in that group, and 75th percentile would be 128. So we're probably not going to get there in 1 year, but wouldn't that be great if we could ultimately get there? So whatever we need to do that, I'm going to go a little bit different direction. Excuse me. I like the 403B match. We have 806 people that participate in a 403B in Lewisville ISD, and that's out of 6,500 employees. That's about 12% of our employee population. And we need to incentivize and motivate people to start that early and often. And so if we could give them an opportunity to double a $600 contribution, that's $100 a month. Go ahead and when you get home tonight, get a spreadsheet out and put that in a financial calculator. And if you do that over the course of a 30-year career, you're not going to need the Hayes deal. Okay, so I would rather we pursue that than an end-of-cycle motivation. So anyway, so that's a two for want the 403B, don't want Hayes. appreciate and think we need to incentivize shortage areas for sure. And then the last one, Ms. Hassett, you and I are in alignment, finally. I really dislike adding days to our local personal leave, but Ms. Smith, you've made a believer out of me. I'm going to recommend or suggest that we do 1 day and stair step. So, thank you, Christy. Thank y'all.
Thank you for your presentation. So I guess, and I've asked this before, I think, in the past, and I know it would be a big undertaking and something that probably not a lot of districts do, but I'm still real curious as to whether or not we could look for alternative healthcare plans for our staff and not have to go through, TRS, because, it's been, when my mom was a teacher, many years ago, the healthcare plan was terrible then. So, can we not just, we have 6,000 employees. Can we not take a look at, I don't know, it may be too late for next year to implement something like this, but I still would like to see it, to see if that would save us money, to see if it would, and even if it didn't, even if it was a wash, but it gave, our employees a better benefits, then to me it would be worth it. I mean, that's just something I would love to see.
So, and we can certainly look, we have to opt out by December in order to do that the following September. So by next year, no. We are looking at the districts that did opt out and really looking at the impact that that's having on their district. And right now, we don't even have a full year's data on that, but we're definitely watching that. As you recall, once you opt out, you cannot opt back in for 5 years. But what I can guarantee you is we are watching it very carefully, seeing the impact that it's having on some other districts to see if it might be in our benefit. And there are more insurance companies getting into that game of offering competitive rates other than just initially last year there were only 2 major players, and there are definitely more people getting involved in that. So but I would say to you by, like next October, we should have more data and at least be able to make a better decision about how aggressive we want to be about opting out.
Okay. Even if in the next, couple work sessions we have, just whatever brief information you have, 5 minutes, just,
Maria participates in a group with those around the area, and she can absolutely give feedback for what they're seeing so far, those that have opted out.
Just to see how it's going, just to see if that's something we want to pursue. But, I'm open to anything and everything, when it boils, for me, when, I kind of see your, final details, numbers and things is kind of when I get but anything that you guys think, that we as a board would think would help. But I do think with 38 other districts having 5 days, I think that's definitely needs to go to the top of the list. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sheila, for putting this together. So I'll start my comments with, I think it's well known that I've championed as big a raises as we can get over the years. It's important that we understand that before we give any raises or offer any benefits, we're in debt. So everything that we're talking about here, which probably is going to range between 14 and 18 million, is us going into debt again and encumbering funds for the future. We did a survey last year. If you guys choose to do a survey again, it's up to you. I don't think it's going to change it. Teachers are concerned about, and we are, wellness once they get their full maximum raise. If they don't get the full maximum raise, the other stuff goes by the wayside, because the fact is they'd prefer the money. I appreciate the conversation about days. I'm willing to consider that, of course. I think everybody needs to understand that days come out of compensation. because days mean that you have to hire subs. We've had a massive issue with subs. We've spent this material amount of money since January of last year on addressing sub issues. And the shortage of subs has created to some of the pressure on teachers not being able to take their days effectively. And so I think that this is a little bit of a Jenga thing where we've got to look at what's really most important, focus on what the option is there, and then start to break it down. And so within that, I would say, one, Ms. Prosnick, I agree. You know, when we talk about Prosper and Frisco, some of these districts, these are districts that when House Bill 3 was passed, they immediately did Vaders to get tax increases, and we did not. And so when we compared ourselves to them, they're in a substantially different financial position than we are. Now, we don't tend to lose a lot of people because of money, because our starting wages are high, and we don't tend to lose people because of benefits. If we lose people for those reasons, they're leaving the profession, and that's indicative of a number of things. Number one, I think, as Dr. Rapp has stated clearly, time for teachers, and I know there are a number of principals in the audience, is a problem. The legislature has put an undue amount of pressure on teachers every year, and expect to see House bills and Senate bills this year that'll be unfunded mandates for us to do things during planning periods and other class time at the elementary, middle, and high school level that we have no control over and we're forced to provide. So we can try to create all kinds of fixes around the system to address those, but we need to get the legislature to back off on some of the things they've asked us to do. I think that, these options of 403B matching, we'd call it 401K matching, whatever, I think those are great options and we should consider them. I think whatever options that we provide should be options for all, within some exceptions. So if we're going to provide, 1 year, for example, and I think it's in retrospect, it was a mistake, we provided classroom or certain job band increases and did not provide the same amount for administration. And that, again, in looking back at it, it's probably something I would reconsider the way I voted on that, because I think that by the way, administration is principals as well. So we missed a large audience of people. The clinics, I'm not sure that's an answer. I think it sounds good on the surface. It sounds good on the surface, and we have a clinic for kids at Central Elementary and Petey Place, and that's great for kids that are close to Petey Place. But if your kids go to Hicks Elementary, or some other elementaries, it's just not suitable for everybody. And I think that the other thing, we do have teledoc, and I think that what happens is that teachers end up talking to the community and don't really portray all the benefits available to them. There are benefits for mental health. There are benefits for other types of things to provide some wellness, and I think we've got to continue to communicate with employees what those are. I'm not sure we need to increase the amount of money we contribute to our health care. I think if we were to say to the community, as shareholders and as educators, here's the deal. We've got 3, 4, 5% for salary increases, or we could do 2 to 3%, and we could do these other things. Guarantee you what the answer will be. Lots of emails. You should have put it in salary. Because salary is something you can count on. It's something that goes into TRS. It's something that builds over time. Every raise you get every year would compound on that. It's an encumbered set of funds, and so it's really the thing as it relates to the overall benefits package that I think we should focus on. Sheila, I think you said health, salary, health clinic, retention payments. I think that was a brilliant recommendation that I think you brought to us the first year. We did that. We did some things the next year as it relates to special ed. I think we've got to address some of the special ed retention or the special ed incentives to get those people. I think a bigger issue on wellness is also the aides issue, the teacher aides. We've got to get the teacher aides into the classroom and support these teachers. It is draining the teachers, and I think that rather than focus on some of the other things, I think we do some things to incentivize getting that staff in the classroom to support the teachers so that they can focus on instruction and some of the other issues. And again, we can't have this conversation without also having the conversation about subs, because we'll continue to be chasing the inflationary numbers for subs as other districts. I mean, we talked about this, I think, at the last work session, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. And, we see other districts increasing their rates with ESS into the 160 range on a daily basis. And so I think that's got to be taken into consideration. But I think everybody needs to remember, we start this conversation before we spend a single penny on increases in debt because of recapture. So it's a complicated thing for us. With that said, I'm willing to consider everything, but at the end of the day, and I would say principals, 69 or so of you meet with Dr. Rapp on a monthly basis, and I assume other people are in that meeting. This is a great opportunity to communicate the needs of your camp. What are your teachers telling you? And if they're telling you and not, they're telling the community and not you, then I think you got to address that issue. We've been very open. We receive emails every year. We have not received emails this year on wellness. We've received emails on compensation for aides and other types of positions. We've not received emails on anything else yet. Now, I promise you that because we talked about it tonight, we're going to get emails. I'm not asking the principals in the audience to encourage our people to do that. Have them send you first, and then you can forward that on to Dr. Rapp. How's that? But we'll put everything on the table as we do every year. We're getting better at doing it sooner because we do want our people to know that we're working on ways to retain them. And we'll be as creative as we can and as aggressive as we can with the legislature. That is just beginning, as Christy said, tomorrow. And I think you can count on the fact that we are going to be very active in what happens in this legislature. There's plenty of money for them to help us out. That doesn't mean that they're going to help us out with raises. I don't expect that. But they can help us out with basic allotment, which allows us to make decisions on the holistic benefit for our staff. And again, we're talking about food service, we're talking about bus drivers, we're talking about Airmark employees, we're talking about operations people, maintenance people, administrative people, as well as people who work on campuses.
I just wanted to say what you had just said, but actually plea to our audience that we are starting legislative session. We would like to make sure that we are fiscally sound within the district. One thing that you can do as a community, as a staff member, as a parent, as a community member, is to encourage, as a student, encourage discussions with your legislator. Increasing the basic allotment raises all ships in the entire state, with probably not even affecting the 12%. I'd have to verify with that. But it would allow us to do a lot for our district. And if you want us to be able to help you, you need to help us. So ask our legislators, advocate with us to raise the basic allotment without caveat, is definitely without caveat. So that's all.
Yeah, and I would say, and Dr. Rapp met with one of our senators. I would email Tan Parker. I would email Drew Springer. I would email Kronda Timish. I would email Ben Baumgartner. I would email Richard Hayes.
Lynn Stuckey and Jared Patterson.
Lynn Stuckey, Jerry Patterson, Gio Capriglione. If you need a list, send us a note, and Hassett will respond to you with the emails for them.
It's on the website.
Okay, or it's on the website. And then, we, again, this is a very complex issue for us. We'll consider every option, but just understand it's a lot of moving parts for us, and it's getting more difficult for us. I think the other thing people have to understand is we are approaching a point where the fund balance that we have is almost to a point where our board policy is we need to have so much money to fund operations for a period of time, and that's established by board policy. We've already modified it once, I believe, didn't we? We increased it. So we would have to modify the amount of funds that we keep in our fund balance. And one of the things you're going to hear the legislature talk about is that ISDs are sitting on large fund balances, around $9 billion. Now they're sitting on a surplus of 27, 32 billion plus a rainy day fund. So there's plenty of money for them to help us out, not necessarily in raises, but in other things. Reading academies, they said they would cost us $600,000. They gave us $600,000. It's going to be $1.6 million. Well, there's $1 million right there, right? So, you know, a lot. I think pressure from the community would help us as we look at this from a full spectrum. All right. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Sheila, for putting that together.
Thank you. I just say I appreciate the feedback, and we will certainly move forward with taking all of that into consideration and see you on February.
Thank you. Dr. Miller.
Good evening. Thank you very much. So we bring to you the long-range planning update. Super excited about this. And I have some committee members that are going to help me. So if they want to come up to the podium. While they're doing that, there were 46 members of the committee that met 3 times and did extensive work, and there are several of them in the audience. So if you are on the committee, can you stand up just so we can recognize you and thank you for your time and dedication? Thank you so much. They did awesome work, and so they are here to support the presenters that are coming up. Y'all want to come up to this podium right here, and then we'll kind of, as we go through. We have a parent, Mr. Watley is here. We have 3 students that are here, and then we have a teacher. So I'm going to kick us off, and then they're going to kind of interject their perspective through this and what are some takeaways from them as we go. So, sorry, I did the wrong one. All right, so just a reminder of the work of this long-range planning was, we are tasked with our immediate juniors and seniors and making sure that they have what they need to be successful out there. But then also we have our pre-K and kinders that, have 12, 13 years to go, and we want to make sure they're prepared as well. So we want to look at that. What does the long range look like for them? So this group of people met 3 times with Dr. Rue. Also, she was not here tonight, but we thank her for her work with us as well. And remember, they were charged with affirming the thoughts that you brought forth board with your work, so affirming that, and then coming up with some themes. We even looked at some future visionary things and what is the future, what do students need in order to be prepared for that future, and then came up with some goals. Also looking at what things are we doing currently that we want to make sure that we don't lose that in the future. And then they kind of identified some priorities for the district moving forward. And so we are at the January right now. Remember, in November, we did the update for y'all. And then we will come back next month with the district we are processing all of the committee's work right now. And we will come in February with our plan based on their work. So initially in November, they reviewed the work that the board had started and passed on to them. Remember, you had some thoughts on our beliefs are moving forward, our vision and mission, and then they reflected on our current practices and efforts that felt aligned with those things that you passed on to them, along with exploring some of the concepts and futures of schools and what graduates need. And from that, they clarified, that should say we believe, so they ended up with 6 beliefs, kind of refining what y'all shared with them. So those are the beliefs that they landed on, and we added that students are more than a test score, I think was one that we added from y'all. Yeah, it should be we believe. Yeah, we believe students, yeah. Okay, then our vision, which this one we came back to a couple times to refine exactly what we wanted the message to be. Confident came up a lot, equipping with skills and knowledge. And then we didn't want to lose the ownership of
the staff and students, and so that's the thriving and adapt for their future, was that they had some ownership along with staff having ownership in that. And then the mission actually just resonated with everyone from the very beginning. We never even touched that once we had that, because everyone identified with that and wanted to keep it. So now Mr. Watley is going to share about the parent perspective.
Dr. Rob, board, it's been an honor to be part of this focus group. And as a parent, it's really good to be, or to have a voice, and get the opportunity to see exactly what y'all do and to better the lives of our children. I did feel that going through this with many important things that we've learned, a couple things that stood out to me, and one was one of the beliefs in we can't use, or we can't look at our students as a test score. You know, it's all about having that teacher, that student-teacher connection. You know, we have to instill confidence, and that's the only way to be able to do that. And of course, another important thing is to provide a safe environment, along with being able to provide all the necessary tools, regardless with productive teachers, technology, so that way our students, our kids, will be able to develop skills, the knowledge, and also confidence. So one day when they do go out into the world, they'll be able to be there, or engineers, astronauts, doctors, and attorneys. This was an eye-opening experience, and as a parent and having no relation to the education, so I don't know exactly what y'all do, and being from someone outside looking in, you know, sometimes we look on the news and think that, you know, the ISD doesn't do anything. Well, I was wrong. You know, y'all do so much, and being able to sit with teachers and other independent, the LISD admin faculties, you know, I'm able to learn a lot, and it's actually inspired me to be more engaged and know exactly what's going on in our local government, as opposed as what y'all were mentioning just earlier with all the budgets and what the government allows, like the school district. So again, it was an honor, and I think hopefully this will continue, you know, for years down the line, to allow, you know, some parents to be able to sit in and be that voice. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. We appreciated you, as well as there were several other parents. He willingly agreed to be the one that spoke tonight. So thank you very much. And then we did our second one. We came back and our second meeting, and really looked to make sure that what we had landed on, beliefs, vision, and mission, were what we were wanting to communicate. Made a little bit more refinement on that, and then we started looking at, so what are our goals? If this is what we believe and this is what we're wanting, what are our goals that are going to get us there? And I'm just going to speak for the whole committee that this is probably my favorite meeting, because we had a student panel, and we were like, oh, if we could have recorded what these students said. I mean, we were crying as these students were talking. It was amazing. And so we listened to our students. We heard about them, things that they felt were really successful about Lewisville that they thought we should hold on to, and then some things that they knew that they needed, that they wanted us to look at for in the future. And then based on all that, we landed on 5 goals. So overarching big goals to move us forward. And so all of them, each cornerstone had 1 goal, and then resource stewardship had 2, because it really split into financial responsibility, fiscal things, and then also recruitment and retention of staff. So those are the 5 goals. And then tonight, I have 3 students. So Amaya and Diamond and June are here to share a little bit about the student experience and perspective.
Good evening to the board and Ms. Dr. Rapp. My name is Amaya Faulkner, and I'm a junior at Lewisville High School. Being a part of LSD for the last 2 years has been an amazing experience. Coming from a district in Tennessee that is very divided with a lack of connections into a district like LASD has been life-changing. I have grown so much these last few years thanks to the actions of my teachers, family, and friends. When asked what has worked well for me at LASD, I would have to say our school's leadership program. Through this program, I and many other students have the opportunity to volunteer in our feeder schools and community. My favorite part is the mentoring program. Several days a week, many of us go to our pre-K, elementary, and middle schools to mentor students to help them with life skills and academics. We get to work on community engagement projects, such as the Angel Tree that has provided for over 3,000 families in Lewisville ISD. I have been impacted by the LSD vision statement, which states that all students are confident and equipped with the knowledge and skills to thrive and adapt for their future. Being a part of this committee has verified to me that our district for sure follows their vision statement. Our committee met and focused on student learning and discussed how to prepare each individual student with critical thinking skills and the necessary academic needs for their future. Everyone learns at a different pace, and it's important that the needs of each student are met and that we as a district consider what is best for them. They need to know that they are not a stat and that their test score or grades do not define who they are. We want them to feel connected and continue to stay in a positive direction so they can learn skills to help them adapt and be successful in school and in their future. Being a part of this committee is something I greatly appreciate. Faculty, parents, and students all came together to share their thoughts and ideas about the district and share this information with you all this evening. For me, being a student and being asked my thoughts and concerns made me feel like I mattered to this district. That's not something all students feel. Approving a long-range committee plan will make every student in our district feel like they have a voice. It will help ISD continue to build a better future for all students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm June Kim. I'm from Marcus High School, and I'm a senior. First of all, I just want to say I had a really good time at these meetings. I caught myself after the very first meeting, even though it was 3 hours long, I was like, dang, there's only 2 more left of these. And I was like really upset at the last one. I was like, I want more. But the first thing, I just wanted to talk about something that I find and throughout LISD that I just really advocate for and that I'm really proud that you guys have set that up for us is just the relationships that I'm able to create at my school and at other schools. And it's just so nice that from kindergarten through senior year, I've just been able to call this my second home and be able to interact with people and feel safe while doing so. One of the beliefs, it was the first one, and this, I may be biased, but I think it's a very good approach, was that students' needs are the center of our learning community. And I really enjoy that. I think hearing that made me as a student appreciate everything more, which in turn made me want to work harder and be better and grow. And so I think that is such an amazing approach to our growing our district, and I just really appreciate you guys for bringing that up and being a part of this. These meetings have meant so much as a student. Just being able to voice my opinion on things that I didn't know would ever be voiced, and knowing that every single person at that meeting was there just for me and for people just like me, it truly meant a lot. And I were just immediately after, I remember telling all my teachers and all my friends about how good of an experience it was and how heard I felt and how blessed I was to have this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good evening. My name is Diamond Faulkner. I'm currently a junior attending Lewisville High School. On the Strategic Direction Committee, teachers, students, parents, and administration came together to evaluate and discuss current LISD values and beliefs, and to create goals on what could improve our school district. When we discussed what has worked well for students in LISD, I immediately thought of the opportunities and offerings that we as students get when we have a chance to explore potential careers in high school. Providing students a way to discover different career pathways has benefited many students in ISD. Tech East and Tech West, as well as on-campus classes, has allowed numerous opportunities to explore careers that students are interested in and plan to continue after high school. Keeping these resources will continue to benefit current students and future generations of students. After reviewing the LISD mission and vision statements, from my perspective, one thing that is important to me that has been highlighted in the belief statements is that students are more than just a test score. Inside the classrooms, when a student is seen as a test score, not only does it discourage them, but it also creates a disconnection between the student and the teacher. This disconnection takes away from a classroom safe and nurturing environment, where students should feel seen, heard, and cared for by their teachers. This method of teaching to the test, to me, is not a valuable way for students to be successful, and some have even become academically dishonest just to attain a passing grade. When students are seen as more than a test score, it motivates them to learn and grow. This then creates an engaging learning environment for both the teacher and student. As an LISD student, being on the Strategic Direction Committee has meant so much to me, and I'm so honored to be a part of the planning process that will improve our school district and continue to help build LISD for our current and future students, parents, and teachers, and administration. All the people involved in the planning committee are amazing and are the reason why LISD is already one of the best districts in Texas. In the meetings that were held, it was nice to be able to hear from different perspectives. As a student, I hope to see this vision continue into the future and help continue to build one LISD. Thank you.
Thank you, Diamond. Appreciate it.
See, this is like the one committee you wish you would have been on, because you got to hear that. Okay, so then after we heard from them, and remember we developed our goals, then we said, okay, well, what is it going to look like? What are some themes and things that you think we need to consider as staff in order to make those things come to life? And so, I mean, this was the hard part because, you know, you want to just do everything, and we had teachers there, and so, you know, that the option's not to do everything. So we had to kind of get some themes going, prioritize things. So they help with that, and then we thought about what are some strategies that would help guide the district in thinking through what could that look like in action. And so I just shared some of the themes that came out of that conversation and the roundtables that we had and now the district has that input, so the district departments are now looking at that to develop the strategies. And then we have Claudia here, who is the teacher voice, that has agreed to share a little bit about the teacher perspective and what it all means.
Dr. Miller, by now, my note sounds like a repetition of what they said, so there will be a lot of similar things. My name is Claudia. I teach special education in McKinney Middle School in Florida here. Good evening. First, I'd like to express that being part of the long-range planning committee was really eye-opening experience for me as a teacher. As a teacher, I sometimes get so caught up with my daily responsibilities, lesson planning, grading, student behavior, parent communication. I'm a SPED teacher, so I had an art this morning that was an hour and a half. So I sometimes find myself losing that bigger picture or the overall general direction of our school district. And this experience gave me just that, being able to sit with other stakeholders, fellow teachers, school administrators, central office staff, community members, and parents and students, and sharing our experiences, our stories, our conversations, I was able to gain that bigger picture and the direction that I was missing. By the end of the process, I felt quite energized and quite proud, honestly, by what we as a committee accomplished. One thing throughout the process, what I noticed that all of us there at the meeting, and I'm very sure everyone in LISD, we have one shared common value, which is our students. And our students, we deeply care about them. And without them, we're not going to be here. And we put our students first. So I was very honored to be part of that conversation. So this leads to two big takeaways for me as a teacher. The first one is we are going to focus more on student-centered learning experience. This is not a new concept. However, we are going to put more emphasis on it. We're going to drive as a school district toward that. I have to borrow what one of our gentlemen at my table said during the meeting. We are going to meet our students where they are. We're going to take them to where they need to be. So we're going to continue to provide that student-centered learning experience for them. And I'm going to, as a teacher, remember this every day in my classroom to implement that. So second big takeaway from my experience is that it is very important, and it has become more so important because of the COVID pandemic, that we have to make sure that our students experience the sense of belonging in our schools and in our classroom. And then it is also important that we make sure that we care deeply about their well-being, their physical, emotional, mental well-being. This means creating a safe learning environment for them. This means building that positive and nurturing experience for them so that they can thrive and challenge themselves to be best they can be. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Claudia, again, was one of several teacher representatives, but agreed to speak tonight, so thank you for doing that. So our next steps are right now the district departments are looking at all that feedback that they have given and really looking at, so what are the strategies over the next 3 years is kind of our target, 3, possibly 5. We also worked through with the group of the big dreams, like what is the next step in order to get to the big dream, because we don't want to overwhelm staff or put something out there that's not realistic in what we want to accomplish. So we are working on that right now, and we will come back in February with an action plan of the strategies and the whole plan for y'all's approval. And with that, if y'all have any questions.
Thank you, Shauna.
Well, for me personally, I want to say listening to the 5 of you speak is greater than the gifts here, and it is why I sit up here. So thank you for that. I want to thank you for sitting on this committee as someone who sat on many LISD committees before being elected. I know the time commitment that it takes. And so thank you for that, for giving what is a non-renewable resource, which is your time. I also want to thank you for making an impact on the entire district with your work. I look forward to February and administration's touch on this, but I really wanted to thank you. You make me very proud to be part of this district.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. For the community, we 3 years ago, we entered into a board audit function where the board audited itself first before we audited anything else. And there were 10 recommendations, and one was a strategic plan. Would change the name. Dr. Rapp changed the name, actually, but long-range plan would be better. And this is a result of that audit. And we engaged in looking at bringing in some firms to facilitate that. We kind of, as a committee, Dr. Bonner and Ms. Hassett and I and Dr. Rapp, and I think there were others, Mr. Colbeck and Ms. Prim, we looked at, should we bring in another firm, and we settled on having Dr. Rue kind of facilitate, because she knows us. She's a retired superintendent from Northwest ISD. I think you guys probably met her. And we felt that and we had a public meeting on this, and we felt this was a good direction to go. And just for your edification, the people in the audience here, this is how important this is. I mean, what is represented in the audience for you as you build this plan for us and for the future of LISD. There are very active parents involved. PTA parents, other community folks. We've got imbalance of principals over here for some reason. I don't know why they're all sitting over here, but we've got procurement, we've got the outside services, transportation, Airmark, we've got facilities, security, technology, instructional technology, all of these functions here, and these are the people that are dependent on you to come up with the ideas. And often we get, I'm going to kind of, one of Dr. Rapp's favorite quotes lately is the man in the arena, right? We hear a lot about the things that we do wrong or the things we do well, often from people who don't have a current position in the schools, whether it's a parent, a teacher, or students like yourself. And so it's great to hear from you, and just know what you have to say is being taken very seriously. And we want you to know that, and we want you to measure us by that, and whatever this board looks like in the future, in 5 years, when you're in college or when you're off doing something else from a career tech perspective or military, you look back and say, you made a difference in what we're doing, and this is the next step in that. So thank you for that. And the time that you invested in it, I'm sure you all could be studying or doing other things, and parents and teachers have enough pressure as it is. So thank you for that. It means a lot to us, and we're grateful. And we're grateful for all the staff that's going to support you as we develop this, this together. Thank you. Okay, online training and development products and services, Mr. Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. This should be a brief topic. I just wanted to bring this in front of the board for awareness. LISD, over the last several years, has used an online training tool. And in fact, it actually used to be called lynda.com. Microsoft purchased them, and through that acquisition, we were able to consolidate. We had different subscriptions at different levels across the district. So the benefit of that was to get it all under one purchase. We ended up saving some money on it. However, this past year, as we're seeing with some of our other subscriptions, the costs are going up. So Microsoft informed us that we're under a legacy licensing model and that we should anticipate significant cost increases in the future. So what we're going to be doing is some level of procurement to look at other options out there, hopefully to find what we need and also help control costs. This may or may not meet the threshold for what the board needs to take for action, but it may. The primary users at this point are career centers, Tech East, Tech West, and what it is, just to try to make it less abstract, it's essentially LinkedIn Learning. It's a library of video content. So there's videos in there on how to learn applications, how to prepare for maybe a certification exam. So the career centers can use that as supplemental training for students. And then also in this building, it's actually licensed currently by address. So people in the org for the addresses that have it, which is LISDAC, Tech East, and Tech West, have access to it. So in technology, we use it very heavily to learn, the technologies that we support. So it might be a specific programming language. It might be, new software that's come out. We have, cybersecurity certification pathways in it. There's a lot of video content. But essentially, we do need some level of library like that. We don't have anything in place of that. So our goal is to shop this out. Hopefully we can find a solution that meets the needs of the career centers as well as the department and other departments within LISDAC. And if it's something that hits that purchasing threshold, we'll be bringing it back as an action item. Any questions?
Nope, Brian. And we're not in a hurry for the game at this point,
okay,
so don't worry.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep moving then. This next item, I'm going to invite Ms. Jacobson back up. This next item is regarding our technology device storage solution. They're getting the presentation up, and this is something we've brought to the board already. So you've heard some information on it, and Michelle is going to basically give you details in the pilot and some of the data usage of that. hardware we're piloting. So go ahead, Michelle.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Colbeck. So we've brought this to you a couple of times before. Just want to give you guys an update. So as a refresher, we piloted a kind of shared iPad situation at LHS Maine at the end of last year. We had 8 math teachers with 5 iPads in each classroom. And so students who were not a part of the 1X program, they forgot their iPad, it wasn't charged, they were able to use those devices during class. The feedback that we got from the campus was very positive, so we wanted to go ahead and roll out a full pilot with our fuel locker systems. So just as a refresher, we're talking about the triad LHS Harmon, LHS Kilo, and LHS Maine. Each campus is a little bit different, so of course we weren't able to start the pilot all at the same time at all of the campuses. So on October the 27th, we launched Kilo. A week and a half later, Harmon. A week and a half later, we launched Kilo, and we were hoping to start LHS after the winter break, but just with facilities and networking and electrical and all of that kind of stuff, not to mention really sharing, communicating with students and teachers, we're hoping to launch that next week. So it's interesting looking at the feedback and the data that we've collected so far. This data is actually from December the 9th. At that time, we had 162 checkouts, 60 at LHS Harmon and 99 at Kilo. Yes, I know that does not equal 160. Whenever we're looking at the numbers, sometimes a student may check it out, but there are issues with them turning it back in. So the 160 or the 159 are truly the check-ins and check-outs. The interesting piece is the kiosk that is next to the locker system that the students log into. It collects data in regards to why they're actually needing an iPad for the day. And I think going into this pilot and talking with teachers, a lot of it was we thought it was because of our students who did not opt into the 1X program. And really looking at the percentages, that's not the number one reason for students checking out the devices. The largest is actually students have forgotten their device for the day. So looking out of the 162, about 50% students checked out the device due to forgetting it. 16-17% they were not in the 1X program. About 16 to 17% they forgot to charge it for the day or were unable to charge it for the day. And then about 17% those devices were in repair. The other piece that was very interesting is looking at our opt-in numbers. I know Mr. Colbeck talked to you about the opt-in numbers as a whole in the technology usage presentation, but they're really good this year. At all of our Tri-I campuses, 93% at Harmon, 95% at Kilo, and 88.9% at Maine. So I think one of the things that we talked to our Technology Advisory Council meeting tonight is just, I think going into this pilot, our thoughts were a little bit different than the data that we're actually collecting. Of course, we've gotten feedback. Right now, it's still early, so we're primarily getting some feedback, technical feedback from our campus technicians. And really, for the most part, it's going as planned. There are no big issues or things that we weren't anticipating. Of course, you can see students are checking out devices, and I actually pulled the numbers from today, and we're actually at 369 checkouts now. So as students are learning about it, communication is increasing, those devices are being checked out more. During EOCs, I know Ms. Fitzhugh, or Dr. Fitzhugh shared that she heard this as well. During EOCs, definitely there was a spike at Kilo and Harmon with checking out devices. One of the things that we are seeing, looking at the data, is we have multiple students who are checking out devices. And I think as we continue with this program, we'll have administrators or teachers who will be able to have conversations with teachers and families to see how they can provide support. I think right now the iPad setup program is improving. Originally we launched it, it took a little bit of time for students to actually log in, but those times are improving. We met with campus administrators and technicians and facility services. We walked the campuses to try to find the optimal position to put these lockers. At Harmon, they are in it's at Kilo. At Kilo, they are in the library, and so it's Harmon, sorry. Harmon, they're in the library. And so whenever students are leaving to get on the bus, they go through the library. So it's there for them to turn them in before they leave for the day. Some things that we still need to work on, I kind of talked about the communication. It's a big thing. We're continuing to work with campuses and teachers and students in understanding what the locker storage iPad is. You have the human element. We talked about in the TAC committee, we're talking about students. We just changed passwords for staff, and we had a lot of staff who forgot their passwords. It's the same thing for students. They're rushed at the end of the day. They don't want to miss their bus, their transportation, so they're forgetting the passwords, and there are some issues with them actually returning the devices. So what's happening is there's a line behind them, they're stressing out, so they're handing that iPad off to a campus technician, a teacher, or a librarian. The kiosk, we're using a Chromebook right now for a kiosk, and right now it was timing out. Our technical information systems team, they've been working on it to try to figure out a way to keep that going, and that's going much better. It provides, or really not provides, but requires more time from campus administrators and campus technicians. Campus administrators, if a student doesn't turn in an iPad, calling them down, figuring out where that iPad is. Campus technicians going into the locker system, making sure all the iPads are there. The data that I have right now is we have not had any devices that have been broken or stolen, so that's positive news. And then the cords right now, you guys saw the presentation of what the locker system looks like. It has the normal cord, so as a student unplugs it and takes it out, just error on just human error, the cords sometimes come out, and so the door doesn't close all the way. So if that's the case, then a student could come up, open the door, and put an iPad in. So those are all things that we're working out right now. Right, so really next steps, we'll continue the pilot and gather feedback. Our next steps would be gathering feedback from the campus administrators and then surveying students who have actually used the locker system. Again, as we are continuing, I know that there are going to be issues that come up, so technical services and other technology departments will work together to resolve those issues. As I said, we'll continue sharing this information with the Technology Advisory Council, and really, depending on how this goes, could ultimately impact our February consent for our device refreshes. This is a huge piece with the shared devices. That's going to give us feedback on how we need to go moving forward.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll just add too, it is connected also to the Mac or the MacBook carts for shared, and you start looking at like why are they being used. You know, essentially, if you look at the cost of an iPad versus a MacBook, it's significantly less. So if it's about those are the use case for the part of the MacBooks is to provide access for when kids don't have a device, this might be a more affordable option versus buying individual MacBook cards. So that's part of what we really are trying to get at before we bring the recommendation forward. So if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Michelle. Dr. Rapp.
Mr. Garrett's going to come up and do our monthly intruder detection audit report findings.
Good evening, Dr. Rapp, board members. For the December, we had 5 audits that were conducted in LISD, the Colony High School, Durham Middle School, Lakeland Elementary, Liberty Elementary, and Prairie Trail Elementary. Any corrective actions coming out of those audits have been developed by the Safety and Security Committee and have been completed prior to this meeting. We do anticipate several more audits coming up in the month of January, so we'll have that report for you next month.
Thank you, Matt. Dr. Rapp.
All right, I'd like to talk through a few things before you consider approval of the next item. So they're going to get that presentation for me on the screen. So this item is an RFP for bond consulting and related services. As you all know, we do a really great job in the school district of having ongoing systematic assessment of district needs. And that starts with that really big facilities assessment document that you all hear about. And of course, in addition to that, we've also talked with you about the facility walks and how we're revising that facilities assessment document to include additional information, and we've reported to you on those
things. And then you've heard tonight, Mr. Colbeck referenced several times the Technology Advisory Committee. So that work, even since the 2017 bond, continues in terms of gathering what are the needs of the school district that we need to stay aware of and be informed about in order to be prepared for the future. In the December work session, you will all recall that we reported on the fact that we were going to release an RFP for bond consulting and related services. We reported to you all that many districts similar in size to LISD utilize professional bond consulting services. We did this RFP, and of course you are having the recommendation before you this evening. Our timeline for the scope of services is ultimately within the 23-24 school year. We received multiple proposals as a result of this RFP. We conducted a thorough evaluation process in order to put this recommendation for you this evening, and we had a strong committee put together to evaluate the RFPs and evaluate the ideas that were brought forward as a part of this rigorous process. The benefit of doing an RFP is that it ensures that we are considering a variety of factors and asking people to bring forward their best work for us to consider and bring you all the most thorough, comprehensive recommendation that we can for approval this evening. As a part of the RFP, we look specifically at deliverables around orientation activities, review of our internal planning processes, engaging with all of you and getting input, and engaging with the staff. We looked for deliverables around a bond steering committee process that would engage both external and internal stakeholders. We looked at deliverables around communication and education process for a called bond, and then we looked at the messaging for all stakeholders. So there was significant analysis around the deliverables related to this work. We know that when we talk about the facilitation portion, we looked for things such as how will stakeholders be involved, what will it look like forming the steering committee, what are the consensus building tools, what is the transparency that will be a part of this process that we know is so important to our community, and how do we have ensure that we're working with someone that gets ongoing feedback as a mechanism for us to continue to improve throughout the process and ultimately get collective agreement for those prioritization of projects that could build towards a future bond. In the communication portion, you look at deliverables related to our district responsibilities legally. What are we allowed to communicate and say as a part of the process? Financially, how do we communicate that? And then what are the election requirements when it comes to putting things out on a ballot? We look at voter analysis and how do we ensure that we're understanding how our community is engaged in this process, and then ultimately that our communication materials are the high standard that we would expect in our community, and that they're fact-based and that they engage and inform people in a variety of modes and deliverables. So our anticipated deliverables in this recommendation would be that we get customized bond planning and management as a result of this tonight, that we get timeline development related to the investigation of our long-term needs when it comes to facilities, technology, and safety and security, and that we can investigate those needs through a future bond, that we get stakeholder consensus building process, and that should you all move forward in calling that, you would get a campaign communication strategy with data-driven analysis, and of course we would engage internally and externally with stakeholders related to all the things that cause you to have to meet the needs of the school district and take care of the district for a long time to come. And so with that, I have before you this evening our recommendation from staff. Thank you for supporting us in putting out this RFP that helps us look to the long-term future needs of our school district. And with that, you have the approval, and I'll take any questions that you may have as well.
Thank you, Dr. Rapp. I just note that you've personally walked all of our facilities, which I think we appreciate the facilities walks. We've seen the high schools. I'm sure you're getting to the middle schools. You've only been in the job for like 8 months, right?
Almost a year.
Almost a year. So, and then this is, in the past, we didn't do an RFP. This time we did an RFP, and we'll spend substantially less than the previous go-around, so thank you for that. Do I have a motion? Ms. Hassett.
I move that the board approve RFP number F1055-23 for bond consulting and related services contract and its anticipated expenditure for 2 years with Huckabee as recommended by administration.
Thank you. Second by Dr. Bonner. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Motion passes 7-0. The grievance hearing that we had for this evening meeting has been withdrawn, so there will be no appeal heard tonight. If there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 8:55 p.m.
For the record, this Georgia TCU score is Georgia 45, TCU 7.